tuned into Quick Charge, the high voltage podcast bringing you the top stories in electric vehicles and sustainable energy daily. And it's all powered by Electrek. Welcome to Quick Charge. It's December 19th, 2024, and I'm your host, Joe Boris. A lot going on in the automotive world these days, especially with that Honda-Nissan merger. But things are kind of going crazy everywhere, and Tesla sales in Europe are down 14% year to date. And Fred Lambert, our editor-in-chief, says it's time to worry. European auto sales numbers are out, and Tesla sales are down 13.7% year to date, driving down the entire EV market. But if you take Tesla out of the equation, the European EV market is actually up. Year to date, Tesla is at 282,700 vehicles compared to 327,600 vehicles. That's over 13% down year to date, despite Tesla slashing prices and fully ramping up Model Y production at its local Berlin plant. In comparison, BEV sales in Europe are down 1.4%. If you remove Tesla from the equation, BEV sales are actually up 1.3%. France is down 24% and Germany's down 21.8%. Those are the markets where EVs are hurting the worst compared to last year. But overall, BEV market is still far ahead of the US, and it remains to be seen if that's a real dip. If you'll recall, this time last year, Germany and France ended their federal EV incentives, and that obviously meant a lot of people accelerated their plans to buy new EVs while the rebates were still in place. That created an artificial spike last year, and of course, an artificial trough at the other side of the wave this year. Next year's numbers are going to be really interesting to see, and I think more than anything else, the decline shouldn't be blamed on Tesla, but rather on the proliferation of new products from other brands, and of course, the aging model line, where we now have people who have gone through 2 leases of a Model 3 or staring down a third Model 3 or Model Y, and maybe looking for something a little bit different, if only to change things up a bit. That's just my opinion. You can let us know in the comments. But one of the craziest aspects of all of this is that the Model Y is likely to lose its crown as the top selling car in Europe. And it's going to lose it to an internal combustion hatchback called the Dacia Sandero. This was like a running gag in the Top Gear show back when it was still relevant, like 15 years ago. So this to me, I think is hilarious. I hope you guys enjoyed that tidbit as well. But again, for more detail, the Model Y is in 6th place overall through November with 181,000 sales in Europe, which means it has 65,000 sales to make if it's going to catch up to the Sandero. Still, Tesla has historically offered major year-end deals, including a free year of supercharging for Model Y buyers in Europe who purchased a vehicle before December 31st. Last year, the Model Y was Europe's best-selling car overall, making it the first EV ever to earn that accolade. And while the Model Y has taken the spot for a few months last year, year-end results were a close call with the Sandero, tightly priced at €12,000. Of course, BYD has seen the biggest sales growth number, with the Song model being a hit at 42% boost in sales compared to the same period last year, and 2025 is likely to bring some new contenders to the top 10. Tesla, too, is expected to release a Model Y refresh dubbed Juniper early next year, so we could very well see the Model Y back on top of the charts soon enough. Now, another company that's hoping to make a big splash with new EVs next year is Honda. Honda's teasing 2 Zero Series EV prototypes to be unveiled at CES and hit the global market just in time for the 2026 model year. Honda announced that it will be back at CES this year, unveiling the next phase of its Zero Series line of EVs at this year's event in Las Vegas. Honda has yet to share many more details about the EV prototypes, but they are clearly evolutions of the Saloon and Space Hub concepts that debuted 1 year ago. It seems these 2 bespoke BEVs will be the first in Honda's Zero Series lineup to hit the market and offer very different designs for consumers. Per the press release, in January at CES 2024, Honda premiered the Honda Zero Series and its thin, light, and wise development approach. At CES 2025, Honda will provide further details on this approach with a focus on the wise value. The thin, light, and wise approach was at the core of all of Honda's presentations and demonstrations during 5 days in Japan earlier this year, and I learned a lot about the company's goals and philosophy as it looks to catch up to an ever-exciting and ever-evolving global EV market. That said, the Honda team kept most of its cars close to its chest and was extremely vague about what technologies that were shown would actually make their way into bona fide production cars. I found Honda's unique production and assembly techniques most fascinating, especially since it was some of the only concrete tactics we could confirm. That's, of course, written by Scooter Dahl, who I was at CES with last year. That was a good time. Maybe we'll do it again next year. Of course, whenever we talk about EVs, we need to talk about the end of life of those batteries, what happens to those batteries, and those rare earth materials that come out of them when it's time to move on from automotive service. Well, to help answer that question, BMW is building a $10 million center to pioneer a new EV battery recycling method that it says is more efficient than ever before. The direct recycling method involves discharging batteries fully before opening the battery cell cans and removing the electrode. Then, after the electrodes dry, they are shredded, separating the active materials from the conducting foils, which can then be regenerated and processed further. The method was developed by BMW Group scientists at similar centers in Munich and Parsdorf, Germany, but with the new factory, it will be implemented on a larger scale. Once the processes are finalized, battery cell material in the double-digit ton range can be recycled every year. Now, finally, we like to end these shows talking about the climate, talking about sustainability, talking about policy, the grid, and all that good stuff. And today we have two similar stories of that nature. The first one is a historic Montana youth climate lawsuit that has been upheld by the Supreme Court. A youth-led climate lawsuit won another historic decision today, with the Montana Supreme Court upholding a 2023 ruling that the state must consider climate change and environmental protections in the approval process for any new energy project. The lawsuit, Held versus Montana, was brought by 16 Montana plaintiffs between the ages of 5 and 22 and supported by Our Children's Trust, a law firm representing youth climate lawsuits across the country. At issue was the Montana Environmental Policy Act, signed by Montana Governor and violent criminal Greg Giaforte. MEPA explicitly disallows consideration of environmental factors in the approval process for oil and gas permits. The youth argue that this law violated their rights under the Montana State Constitution, which guarantees the right to, quote, a clean and healthful environment in Montana for present and future generations. Judge Kathy Seeley of the First Judicial District Court of Montana ruled in favor of the youth, holding that greenhouse gases cause significant harm to the plaintiffs, and invalidated the Montana law that stops environmental review as, quote, unconstitutional on its face. The state then appealed the decision with the support of fossil fuel companies, despite the unequivocal clarity in the Montana Constitution's guarantee of a clean and healthful environment. The Montana Attorney General's office falsely said that Montana, home of the largest coal reserves in the U.S. and one of the highest rates of emission per capita in the country, can have, quote, no meaningful impact on the climate. This is incorrect, as coal is the dirtiest fuel humans currently use for power, and Montana's emissions per capita are roughly 4 times that of California. Today, the Supreme Court ruled to uphold Judge Seeley's decision by a 6-1 margin, so it wasn't really close. The state's constitution, which explicitly calls for a healthful environment, really does require the state to aim for a healthy environment, according to the court. Now, again, I don't know when we decided that this was a partisan thing, that you had to be a conservative or some kind of Republican to actively want to preserve the environment and not pollute and not dump oil into waters and rivers. But hey, it's 2024. Here we are. I don't know what to tell you. One last story today. Walmart and Nexer are rolling out 31 solar farms in 5 states. The community solar farms are expected to generate over 120 megawatts of renewable energy, create 1,500 construction and operation jobs, and help thousands of households and businesses save money on energy bills. This isn't Walmart's first collaboration with Nexamp either. In 2021, they worked together on a group of solar projects in New York. Now they're expanding the effort to bring solar access to communities in Maine, Massachusetts, New York, Illinois, and Minnesota. Community solar makes it easier for people to take advantage of clean energy. By subscribing to energy from these solar farms, residents and businesses can lower their utility bills without needing rooftop panels or paying upfront costs. Nexamp estimates these projects will collectively save subscribers over $2 million each year. Frank Palladino, Walmart's VP of Renewable Energy Strategy, highlights the impact, saying, quote, our collaboration with Nexamp is intended to help communities save money on energy bills, strengthen local grid infrastructure, and drive local job creation. Walmart has made a pledge to enable 10 gigawatts of new clean energy projects by 2030. That's all we've got for today, December 19th. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a minute of all of this action as we head into 2025.